Hey friends, and welcome to today's class. For today, there are no props required, so whenever you have your mat and your space to practice in, let's go ahead and meet in Tadasana at the back of the mat. And when coming into your Tadasana, just find a nice hips width distance, maybe even bring it a little bit wider if you want a little bit more stability. But when coming into your space, feel free to shift the weight, shift the hips, side to side, maybe forward and back. Finding a little, not only trying to explore the space within the soles of the feet, but also just kind of seeing what shows up within the hips. Just having a little bit more freedom, a little bit more opening, a little bit more movement. And start to settle into your center. Maybe even close the eyes. Finding some nice deep inhales, deep exhales on your own. And with that, just kind of maybe even finding a little lift of the shoulders and then letting the shoulders fall down and heavy away from the ears on that exhale. And finding your breath settling into your space. And feel free to set an intention or just take a moment of gratitude here in this moment. I always like to take a little moment for yourself when first arriving onto your mat. Giving yourself permission to let go of anything else that was going on just before stepping onto the mat, any feelings emotionally, physically. You showed up, you're here. Give yourself that little moment of gratitude and appreciation. And the next breath or so, go ahead and blink the eyes open. Maybe wiggle the feet a little bit closer toward one another. And on the next breath in, you're going to inhale, sweep those arms up and overhead. Reach up nice and tall. Tuck the tailbone underneath you to really lift through the side waist. And then grab hold of that left arm. Tuck the left foot behind the right. Open through the left side body. Gaze can be under the left armpit or it can be down at the floor. Just really finding that space from the left hip all the way through the armpit. And then inhale, arms up overhead. Stretch up tall. Grab hold of the right wrist, reach and lift over toward the left side of the room, opening through the left side body. Feel free to tuck that arm underneath, or tuck your gaze underneath the armpit, or gaze toward the floor. Really reaching long, opening through each individual rib to create space for yourself. And then inhale back through center, reach up nice and tall. Ground down through the soles of the feet, really root to rise, find your length here. And then on the exhale, hands are to come down through heart center as you hinge at the hips. Find your forward fold. Hands come down to the earth, lifting those sit bones, that tailbone up toward the sky as you drape the upper body down toward the floor. Head falls heavy. Inhale, find a halfway lift. Keep that tailbone reaching back behind you, strong within the back line of the body. Exhale, find your fold. Inhale, root to rise. Unravel the body toward standing, fingertips up toward the sky. Exhale, hands come through heart center. Inhale, sweep the arms up. Exhale, hinge the hips, forward fold. Fingertips come down to the earth. Inhale, find that halfway lift. Really drawing those shoulder blades down and away from the ears, finding a little engagement through the back line of the torso, long within the back line of the legs. Exhale, find your fold. Plant the hands, walk them forward toward a high plank. Pause here, and then nice and slow, lower all the way down, belly to the floor. Fingertips come to 10 and 2. Untuck the toes, tenting the fingers, keeping those hip points grounded down onto the earth. Inhale, lift the belly from the floor. Coming into oscillating cobra. Gaze lifts at the very end, and then exhale, fall down nice and slow. Inhale, lift up. Really peel the body away, finding a little bit more height every round. Exhale, fall. Inhale, lift through center. On the exhale, maybe the right shoulder dips towards center. Gaze goes over toward the left. Inhale through middle. Opposite shoulder, left shoulder drops in. Gaze goes over toward the right. Up through center. Really find your peak here. Maybe find a subtle engagement of the glutes here, pressing through the fingertips, really lifting that chest upright. Maybe finding a little activation within the back body if that feels good, to really keep that chest lifted. And then exhale, fall down nice and slow, one piece at a time. And then once the forehead drops down to the floor, the hands come underneath the shoulders. Lift those hips up and back. We're coming into child's pose. Not all the way up into downward facing dog. Coming right back into child's pose, finding some length here. Reaching the tailbone, the sit bones toward the heels, keeping those fingertips reaching toward the top of the mat. Finding your breath. Legs can be as near or far from one another as you'd like. If you want a little bit of support for the belly, you can bring them a little bit closer toward each other. If you want to really sink into your space, widen the knees. Keep those big toes touching. Grip of the hands, lift the hips, tuck the toes. Now coming into your downward facing dog. And just finding some weight shifts, some sways here once more. Pedaling through the feet one at a time, and again incorporating the hips, bumping them left to right. Just finding some movement. Maybe exploring some space that you don't typically try to target in downward facing dog. Just give yourself a moment or a few breaths to do a nice little body read, a little body scan. What needs to be activated a little bit more in this space? What needs a little bit more room? And to create a nice lift toward the sky and a nice grounding down into the earth. Then the next breath or so, settle in to your stillness. Inhale, heels rise up high toward the sky. Exhale, bend the knees, gaze forward. Use this momentum to ripple the spine toward the top of the mat. Nice and slow, really create space through the back body. As the hips drop, you pull yourself forward. Upward facing dog or high cobra. Toes can stay tucked. Exhale, bend the knees, send the hips back. Downward facing dog. Maybe finding a little cow-like spine on your way back. Inhale, heels lift. Exhale, bend the knees, gaze forward. Use this to take yourself toward the top of the mat. Take your time. There's no rush to get here. As the shoulders come over the wrists, you drop the hips, you open the front body. Let those hips sink heavy. Feel the opening through the belly. Strong through the heel of the hand. Keep yourself lifted. Exhale. Hips lift up high toward the sky. Downward facing dog. Inhale, heels lift. Exhale, last round. Bend the knees, gaze forward, nice and slow. Create space, let it feel good. And as the shoulders come over top the wrist, we open up. Maybe untuck the toes this round. Pressing down through the tops of the feet, maybe a little hover of the thighs. Strong in the upper body. Open the knees, drop the hips back, child's pose. Find your breath. Come on up in through tabletop position. Bring those knees parallel toward one another. Shoulders over wrists, hips over knees. We're going to come into a few rounds of a more structured cat-cow. So find your nice stable tabletop position. And on the inhale, drop the belly as the hips lift up toward the sky. Continue to pull your chest and heart forward through the shoulders, gaze lifts. Exhale, round, press through the heels of the hands. Separate those shoulder blades as you dome through the upper back. And you tuck the tailbone underneath you. Inhale. Find your cow pose. Draw the chest and heart forward. Exhale, round. Create space. Open up. Keep those side waists nice and long. Inhale. Unravel it toward the top of the mat. Exhale, round. Hide the heart. Scoop it underneath you. Inhale. Cow pose. Exhale. Draw it in, cat pose. Inhale back to center. Tuck the toes, straighten the legs, pause in high plank, and then send the hips up and back, downward facing dog. Inhale, heels lift. Exhale, bend the knees, send the heels over toward the right side of the room. Keep dropping those hips low. Release that left hand. So hips are sitting down toward the back of the mat, and then you're going to pull the body forward. Coming into a side plank as you reach the left arm up and overhead. Using the right arm, the right hand, to really press through the earth. Lift those hips up toward the sky. And then slowly start to bend the knees, send the heels back up toward the sky. Back behind you, left hand comes down, downward facing dog. Other side. Inhale, heels lift. Exhale, bend the knees. Send those heels over toward the left side of the room. Keep bending the knees. Keep sending those hips back. Free up the right hand. And then inhale, pull the body forward. Press through the feet. Come forward into Vashisthasana on the left side. Reach the right arm up and overhead. Really lift up through those hips. Exhale, bend the knees. Send those heels back behind you. Downward facing dog. One more round each side. Inhale, heels lift. Exhale, bend the knees. Heels come over toward the right. Send those hips down toward the back of the mat. Pull yourself forward. Vashisthasana on the right. Lift those hips. Bow through the left side of the body. Bend the knees. Downward facing dog. One more round, one more side. Inhale, heels lift. Exhale, bend the knees. Heels over toward the left side. Send those hips toward the back of the mat. Pull yourself forward. Vashisthasana on the left. Lift up through that right rib cage. Can you create space while you reach the right fingertips toward the back of the mat? Toward the top of the mat, excuse me. Bend the knees, send the hips up, downward facing dog. Drop the knees. Coming into tabletop position. Shoulders over wrists, hips over knees. Untuck the toes. Bring that left knee toward the center of the mat. Inhale, that right leg lifts back behind you. Drive that right knee in toward the center of the chest as the right leg crosses in front of the left. Bring those feet toward the outer edges of the mat and start to slowly rock the hips back down toward the earth. Gomukhasana, legs just trying to explore some space here. Stay lengthened through the side body. You can continue to rock forward and back into this space. You can linger where it feels good. Your opportunity to do either for the next 2-3 breaths. If you decide to settle into your space, keep reaching those fingertips toward the top of the mat. Settle in, one more breath. Shift your weight back onto the shins. Left foot comes back toward the center. Drive that right knee in toward the chest. Right leg meets the left. And switching sides, right shin comes toward the center of the mat. Inhale, left leg goes long back behind you. And then drive the left knee in toward the chest, toward heart center, as you cross the left foot, cross the left knee in front of the right. Feet come toward the outer edges of the mat, and then slowly start to shift your weight. Make any adjustments you need along the way to create space for yourself. And keeping those fingertips reaching toward the top of the mat, maybe even tenting the fingers. And feel free to slowly make your way in and out of your depth here, or decide to linger if that feels a little bit better, if that's what your body is calling for this moment. Wherever you choose to be, 3 more breaths. Wherever you are, trying to keep the sides of the body nice and long, creating space within more closed off shapes. Come back out of it onto the shins. The right foot comes back to the center. Drive that left knee forward so that the left leg meets the right, and go ahead and sit the hips back down toward the heels. Take a moment here, stacking the spine, lift through the crown of the head, shoulders fall heavy. Right fingertips come beyond the toes. Inhale, left arm sweeps across the body and up and overhead as those hips press forward. Exhale, lower down. Inhale, sweep to the other side. Left fingertips plant, right arm comes up and overhead. Reach it long, expand your space. Exhale, lower, 1 more round each side. Inhale, right fingertips plant, left fingertips reach up and overhead. Really press those hips forward, really reach to that left hand. Exhale, lower. Inhale, sweep. Right arm lifts. Hips press forward. Drop down, find your center. Both fingertips now beyond the toes. And from here, slowly start to scoop the tailbone underneath you. Feel how that initial scoop of the tailbone really finds a nice lengthening through the front of the thighs. Keep pressing down through the fingertips. Keep pressing down through the tops of the feet, through the shins. Keep scooping that tailbone under as the hips lift. Opening the front of the body toward the top of the mat. Roll the shoulders out and open. Feeling a nice expansion here in this space. Exhale, slowly lower. Hands come out in front of you. Tuck the toes, hips lift, downward facing dog. Let the heels drop heavy as the hips reach up toward the sky. And letting that length be met with the energy of the upper body as you press through the heel of the hand, wrapping the biceps toward the ears, triceps toward the back of the mat, driving those shoulder blades down the back body. Shift your weight into that left foot. Inhale, right leg lifts up high toward the sky. Bend the right knee, open that right hip toward the right side of the room. Coming into a little flip dog. Really reaching those right toes into the space back behind you as that left heel drops heavy toward the mat. Feel the lengthening within the calf, the opening within the front of that right hip. Square off those hips. Bend through the left knee. Drive the right knee toward that right elbow to allow that right foot to come outside nice and easy, coming outside that right hand. Drop those hips nice and low and slow until the left knee finds the earth. Staying up onto the fingertips here. Lifting through the hip points, lifting through the low belly. As you feel the opening within the front of the left hip. Right knee is nice and right foot is nice and wide here. Plant the left hand, start to roll onto the outer blade of the right foot as that right hand starts to just guide that knee open. Still staying mindful of staying nice and long within the torso. So if you need to grab a few blocks, maybe throw a block underneath that left hand. If that helps keep that space available, feel free. Plant the right foot, right hand comes back down, and then start to send those hips back in space, right toes lift, half splits pose. Really draw that right hip back in space, still keeping that spine nice and long. Coming into the back into that right foot. Tuck the back toes, lift the back knee. Shift your weight into that front right foot. You can take a step or two. Left foot's coming outside the left hand. Feet are wide. Toes can be pointed out as you drop the hips low, coming into a passive squat, top of the mat. Elbows inside the knees. Using that connection to help not only keep the lower body open, but using that connection to grow out of. And on the exhale, we're going to bring the fingertips down toward the floor. Toes are going to come in front of the heels. We're going to find a forward fold. Inhale, toes out. Drop the hips, knees stay open. Create space for yourself to drop in. Chest is lifted. Exhale, find the fold. Toes come in front of the heels. Hips lift up high toward the sky. Inhale, drop in. Knees come wide. Exhale, fold. Inhale, drop those hips low. Find a breath. Plant the hands. Big step of that right foot back in space. We're going to switch sides here. So come up onto the fingertips if you'd like. Really drop those hips down, 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 down. Let the knee come with you until the right knee, hits the earth. Keep pulling that chest and heart forward. Lift the hips. And then kind of wiggling that left knee in and out, letting yourself really scoot in on the inside of that left leg. Feel free to untuck the back toes if you'd like. Plant that right hand. Use the left hand to guide that left hip open. Coming onto the outer blade of that left foot, letting everything kind of open up together. So we're not cranking on that ankle, we're not cranking on the knee. Come on back in. Left hand plants. Send those hips back, coming into half splits pose. Left toes come with you. Let them reach up toward the sky as you draw that left hip back in space. And then pull the chest and heart forward. That's where the length is coming from. Reaching that chest and heart toward the top of the mat. Trying to reach that tailbone back in space. Can you lift it just a little bit more? Deepen the sensation within the back line of that left leg. Come back into that left foot. Tuck the back toes. Lift the back knee. Left foot comes back to meet the right, high plank. Exhale, downward facing dog. Feel free to shimmy side to side. You'll feel a difference left to right. Just take note of it. Coming back into that nice and strong, light and lifted, downward facing dog. Find a breath. Shift the weight into that right leg. Inhale, left leg lifts up high toward the sky. Bend the left knee, open the left hip toward the left side of the room. As you reach those toes back behind you, And as you find that reach, that right heel is dropping heavier down and toward the earth. Staying lifted through the upper body. Really opening through this space. And then square it off, bend in the right knee to help propel your body forward, to drive that left knee toward the left elbow. Plant that foot outside the hand. Draw the chest and heart forward. Lower those hips down, down, down until the right knee kisses the earth. And feel free to, right off the bat, feel free to guide that left knee out and in. Just kind of creating space for you and your body. Opening your hips into a depth to really let yourself settle in. And then from here, tuck the back toes. So keep that right hand down onto the earth. Tuck the back toes, lift the back knee. And nice and slow, we're going to spin onto the outer blades of both feet. We're going to come into that horizon lunge. Reach the left arm up and overhead here. Really driving that left knee out and open. Keeping those hips lifted up toward the sky. And then nice and slow, big sweep of that left hand back to meet the right. All the 10 toes face the front of the mat. Stay lifted here in your space. Drop the back knee, send the hips back in space. Half splits. Really drawing that heel back toward you, but of course not going anywhere. Just feeling that really strong sensation within the back line of the leg. Being intentional about where you are. There might be a slight bend in the left knee, that's okay. Come back into that left foot. Plant the hands, lift that back knee. Take a step or two, that right foot is coming outside the right hand. And those hips are sitting low, coming into that passive squat. Feel free to kind of nudge your hips one way or the other to really settle into your space. If you did grab blocks earlier, you can always sneak one underneath your seat right now. Hands plant on that exhale. Toes come in front of the heels. Find your forward fold. Inhale. Sit the hips low, chest lifts. Passive squat. Exhale, find your fold. Adjust your feet along the way. Inhale, lower down. Chest lifts, hip drop. Hips drop. Exhale, find that fold. Inhale, drop it down. One more round, exhale, fold. Inhale, lift. Plant the hands. Big step of the left foot back in space. Come up onto fingertips if you like. Reaching that left heel back behind you. And then lowering those hips down, 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 down until the left knee kisses the earth. Plant that left hand. You can untuck the toes if you'd like. And feel free to come right to that right knee with the hand, with that right hand, to just kind of gently kind of wiggle the door, open and closed. Creating space for yourself, space that feels good, space that's not forced. And again, coming onto the outer blade of that right foot to allow the entire lower body, the entire right leg to move together, to really move right from the hip joint itself. Left hand can come toward the top left corner a little bit more. You're going to tuck the back toes. You're going to lift the back knee. And nice and slow, we're going to come onto the outer blades of both feet, keeping those hips lifted, the right arms reaching up toward the sky, really pulling that right hip on top of the left, and really drawing that right knee open, open, open. How far onto that outer blade of that foot can you come here? Lift through the hips, nice and strong. Then nice and slow, keep that reach of the right hand back toward the top of the mat. That's where all 10 toes are going to meet. And then we're going to drop that back knee, send the hips back in space, half splits. Reaching or lifting up through those right toes, sending the right hip back in space, pulling the chest and heart forward. Come back into that right foot. Plant the hands, tuck the back toes, lift the back knee. Right foot comes back to meet the left. Exhale, downward facing dog. Feeling a little bit more symmetry here in this space. Lifting up through the sit bones, hinging at the waist and strong within the upper body. Roll over the toes, drop the knees. Untuck the toes, send the hips back, child's pose. Keep those hands anchored onto the earth, really lengthening all the way through the side body, through the armpits, as the tailbone, the sit bones reach toward the heels. Nice and slow, start to walk the hands back toward the knees. And just find your way onto your seat, making your way onto your back. So scoot yourself back toward the center of the mat. Grab hold of those shins or the back of the thighs, and nice and slow, roll yourself down. And as you come down onto your back, bring those feet nice and wide. Arms can be on belly. They can be out into a capital T, whichever feels good for you. And then from here, go ahead and drop the knees over toward the right side. The right knee is going to drop nice and easy, and then the left knee, the inner lining of the left knee is going to draw down toward the earth. Open up through the outer edge of that hip, the waist, the low back. Make it as energetic as you'd like. And then start to draw the outer edge of the left knee open, 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 and then eventually the right knee has no choice but to follow. Left knee falls easy, and a little bit more energy into the right leg as it draws down toward the earth. Now opening up through the right side. Inhale back through center, driving that right knee open, open, open. Left knee eventually follows. Drop the right side, draw the left side down. Really feel the opening through that whole left side from belly to low back, outer hip to thigh. Inhale, draw open. Exhale, let it fall. Really reaching that right knee toward the top left corner of the mat and down toward the earth. Inhale through center. And then wiggle the feet toward one another. Gentle tuck of the tailbone to flatten that back against the earth. Crossing the right knee, or the right ankle across the left thigh. And then we're going to go ahead and bring this shape in toward us. So grab hold just below the left knee, finding nice reclined pigeon pose, pausing at whatever point feels good. Continuing to drive that right knee toward the top of the mat. The theme throughout today's class is just trying to keep the side bodies nice and long. Trying to be just mindful of maintaining length throughout the spine when we're finding just different poses, exploring different space. Are we able to find height in more closed off spaces? And yes, you can still find some nice height even when you're laying on the floor, or laying on your mat. Drop the sole of the left foot down toward the earth. Keep your shape. Grab hold of that right ankle and then allow everything to fall over toward the left. Right arm in a capital T, or you can reach that right arm actually up and overhead. Reach those fingertips nice and long. Again, still trying to open that right hip toward the top corner of the mat. And at any point while we're exploring these shapes, if you'd like to close your eyes, that's always welcome if you feel comfortable doing so. Go ahead and bring the lower body back to center. Uncross the right leg. Switching sides, left ankle over the right thigh. Feel free to pause here or draw that shape in toward you. As the right knee comes in toward the chest, left knee tries to stay open. Like that left hip crease is being drawn toward the top left corner of the mat. Like someone snuck a little egg between your left thigh and your hip bone, and you're trying not to squeeze it. You want to keep just enough space there so you can keep it hugged in there, but you don't want to crack it. Nice and slow. Sole of the right foot comes down toward the earth. Grab hold of that left ankle and let your shape fall over toward the right side. And left arm can easily just rest in that capital T, but if you want to keep the theme going by creating length within the torso, reach that left arm up and overhead. So you're feeling that pull and opposite pulls as the left fingertips reach up, the left knee drives toward the top right corner of the mat. Go ahead and bring your shape back towards center. Uncross the left leg. Go ahead and bring those knees in toward your belly. Find a nice little closed off shape. And then go ahead and extend the legs nice and long out in front of you. Really reach those heels toward the top of the mat. Maybe take a moment to reach the fingertips up and overhead. Big deep breath. And exhale, let it all go as you come into your final rest. Allowing the legs to come nice and wide, the arms to kind of free themselves from the side body, coming out nice and wide themselves. Feel free to take whatever shimmies you need. Scoop the hips underneath you, scoop the shoulder blades underneath you, to really maximize that opening of the front body. allowing the body to settle. Allowing everything to soften. And scanning your body all the way from the tips of the toes, through the pelvis, through the belly, through the shoulders and out through the fingertips, from the collarbones, the neck, the jaw, even the muscles surrounding the eyes and the eyebrows. Just let all of the tension melt away. And just following the pattern of your breath. Slowing the inhales and the exhales. Like the waves on the shoreline, just washing away anything here in this moment that no longer serves you. And feel free to remain in this space for as long as you need. As always, I appreciate y'all for being here and practicing with me. I hope you enjoyed today's flow. If you did, please feel free to like the video, leave a comment, and I look forward to seeing y'all next time. I hope you have an awesome rest of your day.